Hello everyone, welcome to today's study circle. I'm Anne Thomas and I will be dealing with the topic input tax credit, which is dealt under Chapter 5 of the CGST Act from Section 16 to 21 and Chapter 5 of the CGST rules from Rule 36 to 45. Let's start with few definitions. Firstly, what is outward supply? It's dealt under Section 283. It is the supply of goods or service or both whereby sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease or disposal or any other mode made or agreed to be made by such person in the course or furtherance of business. Outward supply. This is dealt under Section 267. In relation to a person shall mean the receipt of goods or service or both whereby purchase, acquisition or any other mode with or without consideration. The definition of capital goods, input and input services. Capital goods dealt under Section 219, input 259, input services 216. Capital goods shall be capitalized in the books of accounts. Inputs are any goods other than capital goods which are not capitalized. Input services are any services. For capital goods, 100% ITC can be claimed, and these three, that is capital goods, input and input services, are used or are intended to be used in the course or furtherance of business. This is the definition of input tax dealt under Section 262. In relation to a registered person, input tax credit means central tax, state tax, union territory tax charged on supply of goods or service or both made to him, which includes the tax payable under RCM, IGST payable on import of goods, and excludes composition tax. Output tax, Section 282. This is in relation to a taxable person. Note the difference. Input tax is in relation to a registered person, whereas output tax is in relation to a taxable person. In relation to a taxable person means tax chargeable under this Act on supply of goods or services or both made by him or his agent, and excludes tax payable under RCM. Input tax credit is Section 263. Input tax credit under Section 263 means the credit of input tax. Eligibility for claiming input tax credit. This is dealt under Section 16(1). There are basically two conditions. First one, the person shall be registered under GST. Second condition, the goods or services shall be used for business purposes. The tax paid for purchasing of goods used for non-business purposes or personal purposes cannot be availed as input tax. Eligibility for claiming input tax credit. This is dealt under Section 16(2) of the CGST Act. There are basically four conditions. First condition is possession of tax paying documents. Tax paying documents can be invoice, the debit note. Invoice can be of two types, that is the invoice raised by the service provider or the service recipient in case of RCM, the bill of entry, etc. The taxable amount, the GST-IN, the place of supply, etc. shall be mentioned in the tax paying document. Second condition, receipt of goods or service. The person claiming input tax credit has to receive the goods or service. Third one is tax has to be paid to the government. That is, tax can be paid by way of cash or availing of input tax credit, etc. Last one is filing of return. Under Section 39, the returns has to be filed by the person claiming input tax credit. Other points which shall be noted. First one is when the goods are received in lots. ITC can be claimed only upon receipt of the last lot or last installment. That is, if the goods or services are received as in 2 or 3 lots or installment, ITC can be claimed only after receipt of the last lot. As payment of invoice within 180 days. That is, when you book an invoice and avail the credit for the same, and if you haven't paid the invoice within 180 days, the input claimed for that invoice has to be reversed. If depreciation is claimed on the tax component, ITC cannot be availed. Say if you have purchased an asset for 1 lakh rupees and the tax paid is 18,000. If you have claimed depreciation for the whole of 1,80,000, then ITC cannot be claimed. But if you have claimed depreciation only on the taxable amount, that is 1 lakh, 18,000 CGST or SGST or IGST, the tax portion can be claimed as input tax credit. The time limit for claiming input tax credit. First one, the due date for filing the returns of September, that is, the due date will be usually October 20th, or the date for filing annual returns of the financial year. Whichever is earlier, till then you can claim the input tax credit for the previous year. Restriction of ITC in proportion of taxable supplies and business purposes. This will be dealt in detail in the following slides. That is, if a good is used for both taxable purpose and exempt supplies, the ITC will be restricted to the portion for which the goods is used for taxable purpose or business purpose. Blocked credits are the credits for which ITC cannot be claimed. This will be dealt in detail in the following slides. Very new amendment which states that ITC can be claimed only on provisional basis. The CBIC under notification number 49/2019 Central Tax dated 9th October 2019. It states that avail ITC on invoice or debit notes which are not reflected in GSTR 2A to an extent of 10% of the eligible ITC reflected in GSTR 2A, which means that you can only avail to an extent of 10% extra the ITC eligible in GSTR 2A. This can be understood by an example. Let us now understand the new amendment with an example. I'll describe the situation before amendment. The ITC available in purchase ledger or register was 1 lakh. Eligible ITC available in GSTR 2A is 60,000. The total ITC that can be claimed in GSTR 3B is 1 lakh. That is 100% of the ITC available in your purchase ledger could be claimed before amendment in your GSTR 3B. I guess the situation before amendment is clear. Now after amendment, the ITC available in the purchase register is 1 lakh. The ITC available in GSTR 2A is 60,000. Now situation number 1, that is 10% of available ITC in GSTR 3B, that is 10% of 60,000, 6,000 rupees. Difference of purchase register and 2A, that is 1 lakh minus 60,000, 40,000. Whichever is less could be claimed as provisional ITC that can be claimed in GSTR 3B. That is 6,000 or 40,000, whichever is less, that is 6,000. So the total ITC that can be claimed in GSTR 3B will be 60,000 plus 6,000 your provisional ITC, which is less of 10% of available ITC in GSTR 2A or difference of purchase register and GSTR 2A. So the total would be 66,000. 34,000, that is 1 lakh minus 66,000, cannot be claimed in GSTR 3B in the specific month. Now case 2 is the eligible ITC available in purchase ledger 1 lakh. ITC available in GSTR 2A is 90,000. 10% of ITC available in GSTR 2A is 90,000 into 10%, that is 9,000. Difference of purchase register and GSTR 2A is 10,000. So among C and D,
the lesser amount is 9,000, so the provisional ITC that can be claimed will be also 9,000. So the total ITC that can be claimed in GSTR 3B will be which is there in GSTR 2A plus least of these two, that is 9,000. Total will be 99,000 and 1,000 cannot be claimed in that specific month in GSTR 3B. I guess the example is clear.
There are few items for which input tax paid cannot be availed. These are known as block credits and are dealt under section 17(5). We will be dealing with clauses of section 17(5) in the further slides. First one, that is clause A and B, is dealt or is related to the purchase of motor vehicle, aircrafts or vessel. We will be dealing in two portions, that is purchase of these three for transportation of goods. If these three are purchased for transportation of goods, full ITC can be claimed. Next, if they are purchased for transportation of passenger, you can claim 100% GST if it is used for three purposes. First one, making further supply, that is if you are a dealer of motor vehicle, vessel or aircraft, you can claim 100% GST. Second one is making taxable supply of imparting training on driving, flying or navigation. That is when you are providing driving services or driving school services in the vehicles, you can claim 100% GST. Third one is making taxable supply of transporting of passenger. When you are using these vehicles for transportation of passenger, you can claim 100% ITC. But if the motor vehicle is used for other purposes and if the seating capacity is equal to or less than 13 including the driver, you cannot claim the ITC. But if the seating capacity is more than 13, you can claim 100% ITC. And if the if the vessel or aircraft is used for any other purposes, you cannot claim input tax credit. C deals with the general insurance, repairs and maintenance and services relating to motor vehicles, aircraft or vessels. If the recipient of the service is dealt or is engaged in providing services relating to manufacture of motor vehicle, vessel or aircraft, he can claim full ITC. Or if the recipient is engaged in the supply of general insurance services in respect of such motor vehicle, vessel or aircraft insured by him, he can also claim 100% ITC. But if the recipient is engaged in any other business, he cannot claim input tax credit. Also, the motor vehicle, vessel or aircraft on which ITC is allowed on clause A and B, which we have discussed earlier, he can general insurance or repairs and maintenance or servicing relating to that motor vehicle or vessel or aircraft can be 100% input can be claimed. But if ITC is not allowed on such motor vehicle or vessel or aircraft, no ITC can be claimed on repair or services or general insurance of such motor vehicle, aircraft or vessels. Services like health services, cosmetics and plastic surgery, beauty treatments, food and beverage, outdoor catering, leasing, renting, hiring of motor vehicle, aircraft, air vessels on which ITC is not allowed, life insurance and health insurance services. ITC can be 100% availed if such goods or services or both are used for supply of same category of goods or services or both. That is subcontracting. For example, if I am a service provider who provides catering services and I've got an order for providing services, that is food, or catering services for a function. Say I have subcontracted a specific portion of the contract, that is, let us say the dessert portion I have subcontracted to another catering services. So for this is known as subcontracting. For this purpose, 100% input tax credit can be claimed. Also, if it is provided as an element of taxable composite or mixed supply, then also ITC can be claimed 100%. And if such goods or services are provided by the employer to employee under statutory obligation. For example, if I am running a factory and under Factories Act it is mentioned that the employees or the workers are mandatory to be provided with food. So I am providing that as a statutory obligation. So I can claim ITC 100%. But if I am providing any services to an employee as an employer, if it is not covered as a statutory obligation, then input tax credit cannot be claimed by myself. E and F deals with the membership of a club, health and fitness center, etc., or travel benefits extended to employees by the employer as on vacation, such as the leave or home travel concession, etc. So if that services are provided by the employer to an employee under a statutory obligation, 100% ITC can be claimed. If not, no ITC can be claimed. G is dealt with the works contract services. If the input service is for further supply of a work contract service, that is again the concept of subcontracting applies here, 100% ITC can be claimed. If the work contract is for a movable property, 100% ITC can be claimed. If it is an immobile property and it is a plant and machinery, 100% ITC can be claimed. But if it is an immobile property and it is not a plant and machinery, no ITC can be claimed. Clause H. Inward supply received by a taxable person for construction of an immobile property other than plant and machinery on his own account. Even such supplies are used in the course or furtherance of business. Here, points to be noted are the ITC on expense incurred on reconstruction, renovation, addition or alteration, and repairs and maintenance would be allowed in case such expense are charged to revenue and not capitalized. Also, foundation and structural support required for any plant and machinery will be eligible for ITC. However, ITC in relation to any plant and machinery, building or civil construction, telecommunication towers and pipelines will not be eligible. It deals with the inward supply on which tax paid on composition scheme. Clause J deals with the inward supply received by a non-resident taxable person except the goods imported by him. Clause K deals with the goods or services or both used for personal consumption. L deals with the goods that are lost, destroyed, written off, disposed by way of gift or free sample. Clause M is the tax paid under Section 74, that is tax evasion. Section 129, detention, seizure and release of goods and conveyance in transit. Or Section 130, that is redemption of the confiscated goods or conveyance. See what are the provisions relating to availment of ITC for NBFCs and banking companies. This is dealt under Rule 38. The interest income received by these entities are exempt, but the other charges like processing fee, loan processing fees, etc. are taxable. So, there are two options which can be availed by the NBFCs and banking company. Option 1 is to avail ITC on a proportionate basis. Option 2 is to avail 50% of the eligible ITC. If we are opting for the 50% ITC, then the next 50% will be lapsed. Also, this option is not applicable for the supplies made from one registered person to another registered person, say having the same PAN, that is the inter-transfers. Once exercised, this option cannot be withdrawn during the remaining part of the year. I hope this is clear. Moving on to the very important portion of the chapter, that is apportionment of input tax credit. How is input tax credit apportioned? This can be divided into two parts, that is input and input services have got a separate treatment and capital goods have got a separate treatment. So input and input services are dealt in Rule 42 and capital goods are dealt in Rule 43. First, we are moving with the input and input tax credit. Consider Mr. X as a businessman and assume that he makes this pen and this scissors. Say the input used for this, both of this, is the plastic, and also assume that the scissors are exempted products and this marker pen are taxable. So the input used for making both these are common, that is the plastic. So how can we avail input tax or input when same product is used for a taxable and exempt supply? What do you mean by common credit? Common credits are the credits which are used for both exempted and taxable supplies. How can we compute it? We have T, the total ITC from input and input services. We are going to reduce the ITC on input and input services used for non-business purposes, also exempt supplies and also ineligible, that is block credits. So with reducing these three things, we'll get the ITC credited to electronic credit ledger. Now let's reduce the taxable supplies including zero rated supply, that is ITC on input and input services used for taxable supplies including zero rated supply, and thus the figure obtained will be the ITC available for apportionment into exempt and taxable supply. C2 obtained, that is the common credit obtained, is attributable to exempt and non-business supply. For obtaining the credit attributable to exempt supply, we use the formula D1, that is credit attributable to exempt supply, that is E divided by F into common credit, that is E stands for the total aggregate turnover of exempt supply and F is the total aggregate turnover. Okay, so the turnover of exempt goods divided by the total turnover into the common credit gives you D1, which is the credit apportioned to exempted supply. For the credit attributable to non-business supplies, we denote it as D2, which is 5% of C2, that is 5% of the common credit. So by totaling D1 and D2 and reducing it from C2, that is by adding up the credit attributable to the exempted supply and non-business supply and reducing it from common credit, we get C3, which is the eligible credit. Let's understand this with an example.
Mr. X received the following inputs and input services. J, GST paid as 18,000, which is used for exempted supply. K, 27,000 block credit. L, 36,000 used for nil rated supply. M, 45,000 personal purpose. So these four inputs cannot be taken. These are considered as ineligible inputs. Moving on, N, 54,000 taxable supply. O, 63,000 zero rated supply. This too can be claimed fully, that is 100% claim or 100% eligible input credits are the 54,000 and 63,000. Next is P 72,000 used for taxable supply, personal use, zero rated supply and exempted supply. Q similarly 81,000 is used for taxable supply, personal use, zero rated supply and exempted supply. So these two are considered as the common credit, which is denoted as C2. Now we have the turnover of the taxable supply, which is 10 lakh, zero rated supply 20 lakh, personal use 2 lakh and exempted supply 18 lakh. The total is 50 lakh. Exempted supply turnover is denoted as E and total turnover is denoted as F. Here rule 42 applies. Full credit of N and O 54,000 plus 63,000, that is 1,17,000 can be claimed because they are used for taxable supply and zero rated supply. So 100% ITC can be claimed. Common credit of P and Q, that is 72,000 and 81,000, totaling of 1,53,000 is the common credit. Here we can see because P and Q are used for taxable supply, personal use, zero rated supply and exempted supply. So they are considered as the common credit. A total of 1,53,000. Now we are going to transfer both the 1,17,000 and 1,53,000 to the electronic credit ledger first. That is 2,70,000. 1,53,000 is inclusive of the ITC attributable to the exempted supplies and personal use, which should be reversed. Now D1 is the credit attributable to exempted supplies. Earlier we went through the formula D is equal to E divided by F into C2. C2 is the common credit, E is the turnover of the exempted supply and F is the total turnover. So C2 is the 1,50,000 common credit into 18 lakh divided by 50 lakh, which is the total turnover, which totals to a 55,080 rupees. This is the ITC attributable to accepted supply. Now D2 is the credit attributable to non-business or personal use. D2 is equal to 5% of common credit. We know that the common credit is 1,53,000, 5% of which is 7,650. Total of D1 and D2, that is total credit attributable to exempted supply and non-business supply, is 62,730. So the eligible credit will be the total credit which we have added to the electronic credit ledger, which is 2,70,000 minus 62,730, that is 2,07,270.
Let's see how can we apportion the credit in case of capital goods. This is dealt under Rule 43. We compute the common credit as we have discussed earlier. It is said that the useful life of the capital goods is 5 years, which is converted as 60 months. Also, the common credit for the particular tax period will be TC, that is the common credit, divided by 60. Common credit TM is divided by the total turnover and multiplied by the exempted and personal purpose supplies, which gives you the ineligible portion, and that has to be deducted from the total credit. This can be understood better from an example.
We are taking the same example which we took for input and input services. We have just replaced it as capital goods. The 54,000 and 63,000 are the eligible inputs, and 72,000 and 81,000 being the common credit. The turnover remains the same as previous example. Taxable supply 10 lakh, zero rated supply 20 lakh, personal use 2 lakh, exempted supply 18 lakh, and total 50 lakh. Rule 43 applies here. Full credit of 1,17,000 and common credit of 1,53,000 is added to the electronic credit ledger first. The common credit is divided by 60 and obtained a figure of 2,550. And this is apportioned to the accepted supplies and personal use. E is the value of turnover of exempted supply 18 lakh and personal use 2 lakh, that is 20 lakh, and F is the total turnover of 50 lakh. TM is 2,550. So dividing, we'll get 1,020. This amount has to be reversed. So the eligible ITC which can be claimed in your returns will be 2,70,000 minus 1,020, that is 2,68,980.
Next, let us see how are we going to entitle the ITC. This is dealt under subsection 1 and 2 of Rule 18 and Section 18 and Rule 40. This can be understood under 4 different situations. Situation number 1, when a non-registered person registers under GST under compulsory registration. Here, he can claim the inputs held as stock, semi-finished goods and finished goods as on immediately preceding the day from which he is liable to tax. And situation number 2 is when a non-taxable person registers voluntarily. Okay. And in these 2 cases, ITC on input which is lying on stock as semi-finished goods and finished goods can be claimed, which is as on immediately preceding from the date from which he is liable to tax in case of compulsory registration, immediately preceding the date of registration in case of voluntary registration. In these 2 cases, the ITC can be claimed within 1 year from the date of invoice of the tax invoice by in 2 case ITC can be claimed within 1 year from the date of invoice by the supplier. Question number 3, when a composition taxpayer shifts and pays tax under regular scheme, he can claim inputs held ITC on inputs held as stock, finished goods and semi-finished goods, and also capital goods which are lying on stock immediately preceding the date from which he is liable to tax under regular scheme. Under situation 3 and 4, ITC on capital goods shall be reduced by 5% per quarter or part thereof from the date of invoice. Also, the ITC claimed will be verified by the details furnished by the corresponding supplier. Also, the ITC will be availed within 1 year from the date of invoice.
On 10/7/2017, Mr. X purchased capital goods of 10 lakh and GST at 12%. Those goods were used for exempted supply. On 1/10/2019, this good is used for both exempted as well as taxable supply. So the turnover of October 2019 for P, that is exempted supply, is 10 lakh, Q 20 lakh, total turnover is 30 lakh. The GST paid is 1,20,000, that is 12% of 10 lakh, less from the date of invoice to 30/9/2019. There are 9 quarters in financial year 17/18 3, 18/19 4, 1922, which gives a total of 9 quarters. So 5% into 9 quarters is 45%. So 1,20,000 into 45%, that is 54,000, has to be reversed. The common credit which shall be taken to GSTR 3B on 2011-2019, that is for filing the returns of October 2019, will be 66,000. Now the credit to be reversed will be 66,000 divided by 60 months, that is 1,100, and which has to be multiplied by the exempted turnover 10 lakh and the total divided by the total turnover 30 lakh, which gives you 366.67. So the eligible credit for the month will be 1,100 minus 366.67, which gives you 733.33.
On to the next portion, reversal of ITC. Here also we are dealing it with considering as three situations. Situation number one, when a registered person shifts to composition scheme. 2, when a taxable supplier shifts to exempted supplier. 3, cancellation of registration. In these three conditions, input held as stock, semi-finished goods and finished goods can be claimed, and also capital goods can be claimed. As on the day immediately preceding the date of switchover in case of taxable to composition, the date immediately preceding the date of exemption in case of taxable supplies to exempted supply, and the day immediately preceding to the date of cancellation of registration in case of cancellation of registration.
On 10/7/2018, Mr. X purchased capital goods for 10 lakh plus 18% GST. Those goods were used for taxable supplies Q. And on 5/11/2019, such goods were used for both exempted supply and taxable supply. Turnover of November 2019, 3 lakh for P, that is exempted supply, Q, taxable supply 7 lakh, total is 10 lakh. Now the ITC availed is 1,80,000, that is 10 lakh into 18%. From date of invoice 10/7/2018 to 4/11/2019, there are 6 quarters, 3 plus 3 pertaining to financial year 2018-19 and 19-20. 6 quarters into 5%, that gives you 30%, which is 54,000. So 1,18,000 minus 54,000 gives you 1,26,000, which is the common credit to be taken to GSTR 3B. Now the credit to be reversed is 1,26,000 divided by 60 months, 2,100. 2,100 into exempted supply divided by total turnover gives you 630 rupees.
Other points which are to be kept in mind are related to inputs, the proportionate reversal based on corresponding invoices. That is the proportionate, ITC proportionate to the exempted and non-personal use shall be reversed. If invoice is not available, the market price prevailing on the date of switchover or exemption or cancellation with a certificate from CA or cost accountant, a chartered accountant or a cost accountant shall be taken. In case of capital goods, prorated basis pertaining to the remaining useful life, which is 60 months, which we have discussed earlier. Next is ITC to be reversed will be calculated separately for CGST, SGST and IGST. The reversal amount will be added back to the output tax liability. Electronic credit or cash ledger will be added to the output tax liability, and also balance ITC will be lapsed. To the very important portion, that is utilization of input tax credit. We have IGST input. The IGST input is firstly set off with the IGST output, then the leftover is set off with the CGST and SGST liability in any order. Okay, so mandatorily the IGST input has been exhausted fully. Next, moving on to the CGST input. CGST input has to be first set off with the IGST liability, if any, and then the CGST liability. CGST input cannot be set off with the SGST liability. Moving on to the SGST input, if anything is left, that is, if any input tax credit, if any IGST liability is left over after utilizing the IGST input and CGST input, that IGST liability can be set off with the SGST input tax credit, and then SGST input tax credit can be set off with the output liability of SGST. SGST cannot be set off with CGST. I hope this is clear. It can be more clearer if you visualize and see the table. That counts for the end of today's study circle. Thank you for your patient listening.